So in this session, we will cover the basics of placing walls. So now that you have set up the floor manager and the grid manager, it is easy to start placing walls at the appropriate location for your building model. Now we've already determined how we're going to organize this model. We're going to do it floor by floor. We're currently working in the lobby floor. But another important concept is model, modify, manage. First, you need to model, get an object in the model, even if it's a placeholder for something that will be better defined later in the design process. Second, rather than deleting those placeholders and remodeling, always try to modify. That way you preserve data that is already on the model. And finally, learn to manage the geometry and the data that's in the model so that you can create selection sets, for instance, of multiple objects and make changes all at once. So now we're going to start placing the exterior wall. So first thing, we want to double check that our floor selector is set to Building 1 lobby floor. That should ensure that our ACS plane lock and ACS plane snap lock are both locked. And then we're going to select the Place Wall tool. That will open up the property panel for the place wall. We can select a wall type from the library. So as I said, we're going to initially place a placeholder, so we're just going to use this default exterior wall. This particular wall doesn't have a lot of properties or characteristics, but later we can replace it with one that does. I'm going to set a default width of 6 inches or 150 millimeters. And since the floor-to-floor height of our ground floor was 15 feet, I'm going to make that the height of the wall. I could add other properties at this point, or I can come back and do those later. Next, I'm going to go up to the ribbon bar and check my placement options. So we're going to set the place by option to align, meaning we'll place a linear wall as opposed to an arc or curve wall. I'm going to place it right of my placement line, and I'm going to use the grid line to trace the exterior of the building, and I actually want to offset the wall off of the grid line to allow for the structure that might be placed on the grid, and so I'm going to put a side offset in of 8 inches. And that will be to the left of my placement. I'm going to select the option to close the wall so that we create basically a shape around the perimeter, and we'll select Auto Connect. And then I'm simply going to place the wall. I could work in my top or plan view as well as the isometric. I'm going to move this over and work in the isometric view. One thing you want to check is your snaps. So down here is the snap icon. If I open that up, I can set a default snap. So I'm going to set that to the multi-snap 1. That will allow me to snap to a variety of options, including key point and intersection. So that's my default snap. Let me open that one more time. I also want to make sure I have AccuSnap turned on, which is the yellow X there. And you can see that makes it automatically snap to whatever is nearest my cursor. So I'm going to start down here at the lower left corner of my grid. It automatically rotates my AccuDraw compass to the top orientation, and then I'm going to draw in a clockwise manner, so I'm going to come up here and snap to this grid intersection and move my cursor over, snapping to that intersection, and finally the fourth one. That would close my perimeter wall, and if I right click on my mouse, it completes the wall. And I'm going to change the display style of this view. Rather than a wireframe, I'm going to change it to an illustration ignore lighting. Now I'm going to add a second wall by slide that over there. We're going to work in the plan view this time, and I'm going to create a little bit of a bump out here between column line B and C to indicate the entry of the building. So let me zoom in there a little bit. Notice how my grid bubbles always remain in my view, so I can tell where grid line B and C are. I'm going to use the same wall type. same width and height. Again, we're going to place by line. I'm going to use the same placement justification, same offset. However, this time I will not close the wall. So I'm going to start here at the intersection with column line C because I want to draw in a clockwise manner. And I'm simply going to snap to the intersection of column line C and column line 1, and that's my start point. And you can see as I drag my cursor, I'm drawing that wall, and it's offset 8 inches from my placement line. And in this case, we're going to actually use AccuDraw to place this wall. So I'm going to drag my cursor in the direction I want to draw the wall. If I select the Enter key, it actually locks on that axis, and then I can type in a distance, 4 feet for instance. I just type in 4, and then left click again to select that point. And now again I can draw that wall in any direction. So I'm going to move in the horizontal direction here. Again, Enter to lock my axis. And now I'm going to snap to the intersection of column line B1. And then again, in the vertical direction, Enter to lock the origin. And I'm just going to snap to the intersection either of the grid line or even where that grid line intersects the wall. And then I can right click in order to finish. So I've placed the wall, and I'm going to go ahead and close the Place Wall dialog. So we have placed the basic walls we need for the exterior of the building. In the next module, we'll actually see how to clean that wall up.